Welcome everybody to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette. We're always glad that you spent your time with us to stay curious. Today we're going to stay curious about our auction a week from Saturday. And these are very important to the future of our museum and financially some of the main cash flow that we have, and many of you have been supporting them. And those of you that are new, we're going to show you a few of the items today and kind of focus on that. But we'll be talking next week about them also, because there's a 400 lots of space memorabilia that, man, I would just love to have almost any one of those lots in my possession. So we're going to talk about that. We've got an astronaut birthday that was on the International Space Station. And we've got, to talk like an amateur astronomer, the moon's 14 days old. And hello, Marty Winkle, my co-producer. He is in Long Island, and he is doing the Streamlabs from far away like that, Marty. So how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Mark. Nice and cool and low humidity. Doesn't get much better than that.
Are you borrowing your brother's clothes to wear, his jackets and stuff like that, or did you take some of that with you? Because you said it was 40-some degrees today for a high.
39 for morning walk. I think it hit 43 so far.
Wow, that puts frost on the pumpkin, so to speak. So, well, we miss you. Everybody misses you here. Probably no one more than me to have him here help me. We've done about 1,160 episodes in 4.5 years of Stay Curious. You newcomers, we were born this out of the pandemic when our nonprofit museum wanted to make sure when we closed in that horrible pandemic that we weren't laying down. We wanted to outreach with all of you that give us financial contributions. And though we thought it might hit the school systems, it actually hit the space community. And we're so grateful for all of you out there. I've got my iPad here. I'm going to push something here to see how I can get, there we are. All right, I can get us up there in your comments today on this November 15th. Kick my volume off there. Doug Forrest is the first one to say hello from Los Angeles. Thank you, Doug. Waiting for some pictures of Endeavor out there, my friend. Feel free to send me a few and we'll show them off here. Dave Stangy's up in Macomb, Michigan. Great to see you, Dave, as always, okay? This is for you Michiganders up there, okay? Gary Gerald, happy Friday to us. A great friend of ours and his wife Donnie up in Collins, Georgia. Dean Babcock, you're always there. Thank you, Steve Jokums. He says greetings to Mark, Marty, and everyone on Stay Curious from Lake County Spaceport in Fox Lake, Illinois. So, and Dave Stangy says we need to make a flat Marty. You've been gone so long. Yeah, I should have done that, Marty. Maybe we'll do that next week. So, and again, you're back home, Mitch Rothman, and wishing everyone a great weekend too. And Mitch Rothman and his man Space has they're making a drive to make July 20th National Moon Day. Should be International Moon Day, July 20th, when we landed on the moon with Apollo 11. And Mitch, we're going to get our arms around that for you, buddy, and try to help you with that. So just one more look at the big O there of Ohio State. All right, that's my football team. Oh yeah, Don Thomas autographed that for me there. Okay, he's another Ohio nut, I should say, as we Buckeyes are. So we're going to have some fun today. Chime in what you want. Carlton Bailey already has. Welcome to him. And like I said, Marty's from afar. That's like the wise men in the Bible, Carlton. They were firemen, because the Bible says they came from afar. So no more jokes. Doug says you can't see Endeavor. It's completely covered up now. Okay, that's his excuse, and he's sticking to it. Well, show us that wrap around there. But anyway, I want to see that when that's unveiled. That'll be fabulous here. So, well, let's kick off today, showing you our beautiful entrance there. We are a proud 501c3 nonprofit in the state of Florida. And it's covering up a plaque there. The flag, right behind the flag, there is a plaque that I'm going to show off to you today. Okay. But the charity auction, we call it charity auction because we are a nonprofit charity in Florida. And we add 20% of the sales to go in directly to us. And then Bid Again Auctions Company, led by Chuck Jeffrey, our board member and chief operating officer. Chuck has did this. We're up to auction 35, I believe. He did like the first 15 to almost 20 of them, maybe, where he did not take a dime from this. And then he likes the auction world, and Chuck has turned it into a business, not just with space items, but anything. So we've got launch director Bob Sieck has things from Challenger and other things, his career, a legend at NASA, and he's donating the benefits to the Challenger Center. It's the Challenger Center, not the foundation. I need to correct that. Bob Giffin, who recently passed away, hung off the side of a Saturn V rocket and did an installation job that Guinness Book of World Records honored him with. Some of these things are there. Dozens of astronaut autographs. If you want to start a collection with the Mercury, Gemini, Apollo astronauts, now's a good time to do it. Also, you can buy shuttle astronaut autographs, complete missions at a pretty good bargain. Robbins medallions we're going to talk about, and rare photos from the surface of the moon printed out of the NASA labs at Johnson Space Center and Kennedy Space Center. So we're going to be seeing some of those items, but you can pre-bid now. Go to AmericanSpaceMuseum.org at the top. Our outstanding IT guy, Bruce Jacobs, has put it easy up there for you to hit. Just hit the button to see the auction. You can see the auction without registering, but when you register to bid, you can bid now. If you think you can give $200 for an item, it might go for 150. All right, but 200 is the max that you're putting in there. We'll talk about that here as we look at some of these lots. Marty, talk like an astronomer. The moon's 14 days old today. So that would be what?
Full moon.
Full moon, that's right. And I'll bet you got some pretty, if it's clear there, the moon coming up over the horizon, like this shot by our wonderful friend Mark Usiak over Pennsylvania. All right. The moon is 14 days old, and it will be at the quarters. It is 7 days old for first quarter and 21 days for third quarter, which rises about midnight. Almost 30 days between the phases, so you get it. About 14 to 15 days. It looked full last night, but it probably became full exactly sometime during the middle of the day today. So also, as the moon is rising, below it to the left later in the evening is going to be a super bright star. Way to the left of it, that is the planet Jupiter. And the very bright star in the west, where the sun sets at about 5:30 at night, is Venus. So Venus is just so brilliant. Jupiter in the east is brilliant, and between the two in the ecliptic is Saturn. And we'll talk more astronomy on Monday when we take you to the backyard astronomy here on Stay Curious. Excellent photo. Why is the moon red? Because the atmosphere of the Earth is dirty, and it is like a filter that shifts that light to the red end of the spectrum. Of course, the moonlight is reflected light off the surface, sunlight, all right? And in the backdrop here is the moon phase, just about almost full. You see about down here, it's not quite full as you see it here in Florida, a picture I took. And about right there on the shores of right there where my finger is where Apollo 11 landed. You look for that oval. That oval is the Sea of Crisis, Mercurium. Let me put, and you see the Mercurium, you can barely see it there. Here you can see it better because the moon wobbles back and forth. We actually see 59% of the surface because it slightly liberates back and forth a little bit. And that's a good way to see it, where you see that oval mercrism, better some lunar phases than others. This is the beaver moon, okay? The Native Americans, all cultures around the world, named the moons as significant as they were. It's hard for us, Marty, to go back 200 years and imagine no electricity, you know. There was no lighting in the night with car lots or anything, of course, and it was so dark that you could just see down to like just stars that you can never see from your backyard, or even you have to go out to under the wilds of Montana, for example, or just be in some remote place. So the sky was very important, and when the moon was out during particularly the fall, hunting went on and harvesting went on. Okay, full corn moon in September was a harvest moon. Also, the hunter moon, traditionally in October, could be November, where all the leaves have fallen down and easy to hunt. Okay, because you can see what you're hunting for. And that reminds me to give a shout out to Terry White, our shuttle garage mechanic. He's the chief of the garages, Marty. Talked to him today. He's hunting. And in Ohio, I believe he's hunting for deer. He's looking for a buck. Yeah, I sent him a picture of all the does that you've got scavenging your yard there. So he liked that a lot. Why is it the full beaver moon, Marty? You got an idea why it is?
I guess the beavers are out building their dams.
That's right. They're building their dams for they're getting their homes ready for the winter, where they're going to have a cozy little time hanging out. They're not hibernating creatures. They go in and out. But boy, these beaver dams can be quite elaborate. Yeah. And then the full cold moon is December, all right? It's also called the Yuletide moon and other names for that. I love the wolf moon in January. And people want to know, why is the wolf identified with the month of January? It's because you could hear these wolves baying in the distance. The Native Americans could. You could hear their howls. They were actually crying because they were hungry. They were baying because they were so hungry. Not really starving to death, but really hungry. And that would attract other wolves that found some meager uh, rabbit or something like that, and they would share with them. Very, very communal colonies are the wolves out there. So, well, enough of astronomy. Let's get into what is happening 55 years ago today. Grumman's lunar module number 6 was headed on the way to the moon with these astronauts. Pete Conrad, the commander, Alan Bean was going to walk on the moon with Pete, and Dick Gordon. And these gentlemen are Navy friends from Pox River, where they all trained. They are actually buried close to each other at the Arlington National Cemetery at the bequest of the families. Bean and Gordon lived to be in their 80s and relished the fruits of their labors for decades, while Pete Conrad died at age 69 in a freak motorcycle accident where his spleen got ruptured in 1999. And he went to a hospital that didn't diagnose what was going on. And my God, you can't make that up. But what a character, all kinds of Pete Conrad stories that I can't tell. From some of the space workers that worked with him, particularly those in the flight crew training building, like our favorite friend and secretary, Hazel Seacack Banks. Hazel Seacack then was a secretary that helped, in a way, see the Apollo 12 parody. And if you guys haven't looked up the Apollo 12 parody, please do. It is on YouTube, and you will laugh your butt off, as well as have some fun seeing Hazel in her youth there. So, hi, Hayes. Maybe we can get up this weekend and have a meal together. Glad that you're so active. And she is. She is a senior citizen helping senior citizens. Well, this is the moonship. And when I put the model of this that we have up here in the museum for demonstration purposes, I tell the young people looking at it, not very Star Trek or Star Wars looking, okay? In fact, they can't hardly figure out what they're looking at. The astronauts do not get back in the cylinder. That is gas tanks and avionics and the fuel and everything for this important engine that gets them in and out of lunar orbit. The conical shape is where they're at, as well as the silver part of the lunar module is where the astronauts land in, standing up, and the Kapton foil covered descent stage, um, that they don't get in that at all either. And Marty, who's on the line and co-producing this from Long Island, New York, worked on the lunar modules as the lead electrical engineer. And Marty, I know it's 55 years ago, and you're not one that waxes eloquent, but when you look at up that old moon here tonight in the next few nights, Marty, I'm so proud of you and your team and many of them. I've met a dozen of them for what you did for America. Do you ever look up and swell up a little bit with pride?
I wouldn't say swell up. I just look up and I'll think about it, and then try to imagine it, decent stay still up there. But no, I don't. They don't well up on it at all.
Wonder what it looks like, and some generation will have a tour bus going up to it on the moon. You guarantee that. So, but this is our moonship, folks. 3 days there, 3 days back. They jettison the lunar module ascent stage while in lunar orbit and crash it. So actually, they spend 3 days going back in just the command module and the service module there. Quite an amazing feat that has not been duplicated since December 1972. And yes, we're trying to go back with Artemis, and I'm sure mankind will go back someday. My personal opinion, I don't believe it will be Artemis. I believe it will be one of the private companies will have to fund it, and why not? We don't. They seem to be doing well, but hope Artemis does get the money and the financing to go. But there is a lot of taxpayer money involved, and we'll just see what happens here. So. Thank you, Tom Usiak. It is a thank goodness it's Friday for me and everyone this weekend. Uh, Apollo summary: 11 crewed space flights, 27 Apollo astronauts flew to the moon, 3 flew twice. So that's 24 different humans can say with their own eyes they saw an alien world. 12 Americans walked on the moon, 4 are alive. Okay, Buzz Aldrin's 94. Dave Scott of Apollo 15 is 92. And then you've got 2 88-year-olds, which are um, Apollo 16's Charlie Duke, who's the youngest, and Harrison Schmitt of Apollo 17. So they're not going to be around much longer, and boy, they are so giving still with what when the media and the public wants them. Marty was one of over 400,000 employees in all 50 states that had something to do with going to the moon. And 20,000 companies and institutions were involved. Think about that. 20,000 companies, Marty, and institutions involved. Of course, a lot of major universities had experiments or something to do with it. But the cost in 1960s dollars was about $25 billion in cost. You may have seen 30 billion. 25 billion is what a couple of the people like Jay Honeycutt, former director of NASA and a Sims leader in Houston. That's $250 billion in today's money. All right. So when we're talking about the Artemis 1 costs about $4.5 with a B billion dollars. And we know that Artemis 2, which is scheduled to launch a year from this month, but the heat shield's got issues, so that's going to be pushed back. And also, I believe the Artemis drive is sort of in suspended animation until they find out what the president-elect's going to do with the program. So whoever was president-elect, they would be doing it. I'm not being political at all. Please don't take that impression. Whoever won, it was going to be neither one had stated what they were going to do with Artemis. So we're looking to find out. If you know, let me know. So if it's going to cost $5 billion, $6 billion for Artemis 2 and Artemis 3, of course, will be $7 billion. It's still not in line with sort of what we spent 55 years ago. But every dollar was spent on Earth. Marty, I don't think you put suitcases of $100 bills in that lunar module, did you? And blast them off the Earth. No,
Nope.
those suitcases of $100 bills went in Marty's bank account. Okay. And God bless him. What a great company he worked for that's supplying their employees great pensions. So, little Apollo facts here as we talk about Apollo 12 doubled down on President Kennedy's pledge to go to the moon before the end of the decade. And I believe the 17th is the landing date. If you go up and look at that big old La Luna and get you some moonshine this weekend, there you can see where the landing site of Apollo 11 is in Sea of Tranquility. Above it is the Sea of Serenity, Serenitatis, and over to the right where the G is, that is the Sea of Fecunditatis, the Sea of Fertility. And this sea below the D is the Sea of Nectar. Imagine that, a nectar-filled ocean. And the ancients thought these were oceans. But some of the smart people, like Aristotle, said, well, I don't see any reflection, like a mirror, because if they were water, we'd see the sun reflecting in it. And then we figured out with telescopes that it was lava that had frozen and been bombarded on the front side of the moon. The back side of the moon does not have these lunar maria on there. So, Mare Chrism, Sea of Crisis, and there you got the landing of Apollo 11 at the shore of Tranquility Base. Apollo 12 that we're celebrating this week and did a wonderful talk that you all contributed on yesterday. You see where it is, Apollo 12, Apollo 14 was where Apollo 13 was going to go, 11, 12, 14 along the equator, which was very minimal vector fuel efforting. But then 14 went up, way up there, and landed in my favorite, Hadley Rill. And then 16 wanted to see something that they thought was scientific, volcanoes, and that wasn't volcanic, it was something else. And then 17 went up there again to get into some things going on. 16 also was landed to see the rays of that crater. That's Tycho crater, all right? And the rays of that crater were part of where 16 landed. They want to get pieces of the Tycho crater that was unearthed and thrown 1,000 miles almost, and they did. They did get some of that. All right, let's see here. Marty, is there anyone commenting after Tom Usiak's TGIF? I want to make sure I'm not frozen up again.
Yeah, what happened was we're getting disconnected, but then we reconnected again, and we got a comment from Doug Forrest and Steve Holcomb. So we need to update your.
We
your
lost. They're saying we lost the live feed.
Yeah, it happened yesterday and it's happening today. Just once so far.
Okay. All right, Doug, I just sent you an email with 5 pics of Endeavor display. Thank you, Doug. Great minds, Doug. So did I. All right, thank you, guys, in there.
Those are left.
We like to share them there. Is that the last ones you saw?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, happy birthday. Whose birthday? Let me put a hat on. It's a TGIF day there. Happy birthday to Timothy John Kramer. Creamer, Creamer, all right, and born November 15th, 1959 in Fort Huachuca, Arizona. I know where Fort Huachuca is, outside of Tucson, but he considers Upper Marlboro, Maryland, to be his hometown. That's quite a distance to change there. Obviously, Fort Huachuca, family was in the military and moved to Maryland on there. He is experienced 167 days in space. TJ is. There he is in mission control. Turning 65. All right, welcome to the senior years, TJ. You're going to love him. He was one of the Penguins, the NASA group of 1998. And distinguished Army aviator, Kramer went to Loyola College in chemistry, flew on a Russian Soyuz TMA-17 spacecraft in December 2009. That was when America had no access to our own space station. Spent 163 days up there on Expedition 22 and 23. And he is reportedly the first astronaut to live tweet from space on January 22nd, 2010. Thus, he's behind a Twitter, now X, banner there. And Aquanaut, those are the Nemo astronauts that go underwater off of Key Largo, south of Miami. Kramer is the first astronaut to be certified as a flight director at NASA's Johnson Space Center. There he is. Currently works as an ISS flight director for the Kennedy Space Center and Johnson Space Center. So welcome to your senior years. You're gonna, like I said, love them, but if you're like me, you're gonna find that you're gonna work doing things that you enjoy, TJ. So we enjoy celebrating our astronauts' birthdays because there are over 300 American astronauts giving and talking and inspiring every day in America. All right. Well, let's get to the auction stuff here. So you might want to make some notes, something that you see, go back and check the lot out and make a bid. Bid Again Auctions. Chuck Jeffrey's quite a guy. He's got 30 years experience in space memorabilia. Had one of the most awesome collections you'd ever want to see, and he's just a warehouse of knowledge about space and astronomy, and he has taught me, and he's been taught by another great guy, Ken Havicott. We'll see pictures of all three of us here in a minute. But if you have something that you think is a Neil Armstrong autograph, I like saying, shoot a picture of it to Chuck, and he'll be glad to give you an idea of immediately we can tell if it's a forgery or a auto pen. I've been taught how to do that. Chuck at AmericanSpaceMuseum.org, or he'll even take a text there. So there is Chuck. A couple years ago, he's sporting a mustache now, Marty. And we got JP Florida 142 says hi, everyone. Well, hi. We're going to talk to you about how you can get some cool stuff, or maybe hint to your wife there, Steve Jokums, that that number, lot 62, you need to look at that at the American Space Museum's auction there, because I guarantee you there's something for everyone watching that will make you smile under that Christmas tree, that Hanukkah bush, whatever, Kwanzaa, whatever you want there. We don't care. We celebrate everybody during this holiday season. Chuck is so important to our museum. He has actually saved our museum, and this is no small order. Through the auctions, like the first 15 to 20 of them, where he did not take a dime, they were the main source of our income. And no, we're doing steps to remedy that. He wanted to turn it into a business and expand it from just space memorabilia. But outside of our door, as you come in the museum, is this plaque that says American Space Museum honors Mr. Chuck Jeffrey, owner of C&D Diversified Systems, Inc., and Bid Again Auctions, for his standard of excellence, individual talents, and concerned dedication so generously given to the American Space Museum. Mr. Jeffrey is praised for his many hours of effort and selfless contributions and his exceptional fundraising skills, all the while maintaining his full-time business, which is a security firm business with better cameras than you can buy at a big box store. It is because of these attributes that the American Space Museum has survived and is able to serve the local and global community as a not-for-profit museum dedicated to the preservation of American history. And Chuck, we thank you so much. He can't be thanked enough. This plaque is just a little token that the board of directors put outside to just emphasize that without this man, the museum would probably be closed. All right, and I'm not making light of that. So these auctions are important. We get if we put an item in there. This was a lunar boot that was used in training, and it went for $35,000 at an auction, and we owned that. So we got to put that money in the bank plus the 20% fee, which is another $7,000. Okay, on there. When we have things that we own the whole thing, we get everything. But if you've got something that you want us to have and it sells for uh, $1,000, you're going to get a generous portion of that. And I'm not going to say how much because Chuck negotiates that, but it's well over 60% you get to keep. Then the museum, that 40% or 20 or whatever the negotiated deal is. Of course, Chuck takes his take for his auction house, and he generously donates. I believe he's donating 15% of the profits back to us, plus the 20% of the charity. So there's a little math involved there, but that's how we work. This was such a cool piece, and I believe it's coming up for resale again on our auctions. But yep, us men go back and forth. No beard, mustache the same. But thank you so much, Chuck, for your dedication and time. He now has a business that he's hoping to segue into in his early retirement, but well before he's 60 years old. That's Chuck and me with Ken Habicott. Ken Habicott is one of the world-renowned experts on space memorabilia. Been doing it since high school. You will find him on Collect Space on their collectibles section there. He's always posting things about the stamp world. He started his business with postal service covers, and I have been privileged to know him now. Uh, Chuck was mentored by Ken, and Chuck mentored me, and the I can't believe what I know. All right, I'm not bragging about what I know, because these two guys know 100 times more than me, but I'm just so blessed to know what I know, and it's pretty cool. Things like things like this pop up that I just love to see. That you never probably seen that before. Okay, look at that Apollo 12 sketch. All right, on cardboard and hardboard. This is from the manned space. Where's my glasses? I guess I don't need them. Or not. Oh, here they are, under my hat. Yeah. These are Manned Flight Awareness NASA Michoud Assembly Facility, 1969, New Orleans, Louisiana, with the zip code. 1969, these were distributed around there. 55 years ago, in mint condition. And I put something like this for 20 bucks on eBay and hope to get more. Should go for 50, but we don't want to gouge people. You might see someone, but you'll see things like this bundled in lots that we're going to be looking at here. Just love that. Apollo 12 507. Okay. And these are the type of things we're going to start rewarding great listeners and viewers like you out there with, like Steve Jokums and Doug Forrest and Tommy there. So, all right. Anybody after hi everyone, Marty, or am I stuck on the comments?
No, you're good.
Okay. All right. I bored him to tears. These are called Robbins medals, folks. Let's look at some of these lots. All right, 2, 4, 8 at a time. These are Woody Springs. An astronaut would get many forms to fill out before their trip on the shuttle. And one of the forms would be, do you want to buy the gold or silver medal or bronze medal of a company called Robbins Medallions that strike the medal, the shape and character, everything that's on your mission patch. And then some are flown to space, some aren't. All right. But Woody Spring was one that bought up a lot of his crewmates as well as his own crew. All right. There's Columbia STS-2. That was the first reusable flight of a spaceship. Landed, a week ago in 1981. All right, with Joe Engel and Richard Truly, both passed away last year. So you see STS 5, 6, 8, 9. Historic missions. I mean, 8 is the first African American, Bluford. Guy Bluford went up, okay? You've got John Young's last mission, STS 9, uh, not by his own liking, okay? Uh, then you got the alphabet numbered ones, okay? Like our good friend, there's Woody flew with the Charlie Walker there. No, he didn't fly with Charlie, but that's the one where Charlie Walker flew with Judy Resnick, and so on and so forth. These go for $300 to $600. Okay. See, you got a current bid of $125. That means that somebody has bid. Well, that's the highest bid they want to put in there. If you put in 300, and somebody else bid 150, all right, yours would go up to 175. All right, it goes up in $25 increments until you hit 1,000. That goes up 100 increments, and when you hit $1,000, the auction goes at $1,000 increments, and those are fun to watch. I encourage you to at least watch next Saturday's auction. Now, Bob Sieck, the legendary launch director, who I'm privileged to know, he's been on our board of directors and treasurer. Bob has a Challenger Crew signed 51L. All right, all of them signed it. He is not profiting off this one dime. He is giving all of the money to the Challenger Center, okay, which celebrates the children of the deceased Challenger astronauts. This could go for as high as $10,000. All right. 6,000 is what Chuck thinks is the low bid it should get. And though somebody pathetically put 500 in there, it ain't going to go for that. And in fact, there's probably a reserve of 5,000 on there that if it don't bring 5,000 in, we're not going to sell it. You may put reserves on your things. All right. And there's a couple medallions there, Robbins medals. Then one popular collection is 135 shuttle missions, and there were a couple missions that never didn't come into fruition for various reasons, were canceled. So you could actually get about 137 or 8 shuttle crews all signed. And the rule of thumb there is each astronaut signing is $25, and if you have the whole group of astronauts, add another 100 to it. All right. So these are $100 to $500, and more popular missions go for more. And I've seen Chuck. I helped Chuck with these auctions, and we saw a bidding war between something like STS 87 there with our good friend um, Winston Scott. There did a spacewalk. Kalpana Chawla. That'd be a very popular one to have because she passed away in Colombia. But we saw this bidding war where, gosh, I think it went for almost $3,000 a lithograph. And Chuck turned to me and said, they're fighting over it because they each needed to complete their collection. And it's a particular crew that's hard to get. You'd never get that again if Kalpana Chawla hadn't signed that, for example. So that's, they're fun to get. You can also get auto pens of these things, and they're a whole lot less money. But getting that is a fun thing to do. Well, big shout out to Connie McDaniel. She's out on a family trip in the beautiful North Carolina. She's freezing like you are, Marty, as you well know. And she will be bidding on this Blue Angels crew signed frame print. All right. Her nephew was a mechanic for the Blues, and I know Mark Usiak and myself and Carlton have been privileged to have some VIP tickets, thanks to Connie for the Blue Angels, and that'll be a cool thing to have there. It's just a job; it's an adventure, right? And if you've not seen the Blue Angels movie that I saw in big IMAX screen, boy, that is so cool, and you'll gain appreciation of these. They gotta be the greatest aviators in the world. So you got a lot of pins are popular. There's a North American Aviation hat, all right, and Delta hard hat that may come from Bob Giffin, who passed away. There's some Grumman jewelry there, Marty. You've got a lot of that jewelry. I'd like to get a blue button pin that I had at one time and have misplaced it. The blue pin that says lunar on it, I believe. was like the button that was in the lunar modules that lit up when the poles landed. You got press media passes there. All right. We sell each of those for $20 or $30 each. Okay. You got two, four, six, 7 of them at $30 each, $210. That's what I would put them at on eBay at a price. One cool thing to have is the Lunar Grumman Transparency Apollo Module Book. I love that, Marty. We've got one on display in our Apollo gallery, but it's a transparency that when you flip that page over, you see the tanks and so forth revealed. And then you flip another page over and you see the electronics on there. Have you sold yours yet, Marty?
Nope, I have no plans to sell it.
All right. Well, that's a good keepsake for your family to have, I think. Let's look at some autographed astronauts from Scott Carpenter, John Glenn, to moonwalkers Edgar Mitchell, Buzz Aldrin. All right. You can own these, and they're usually going to go for about $400. All right. Edgar Mitchell, you might be able to grab that for $150, $200. The fourth man to walk on the moon on Apollo 14. No, he'd be the sixth. Wait, 2, 4. He's the sixth guy. Yeah, sixth. And there's Buzz, a good strong signature by Buzz. At his age, he is not autographing anymore. And it wouldn't look like the same Buzz Aldrin. But that'll go for $400 or $500. On the picture of him saluting the flag, yeah, you're going to see that. And I'm not sure if it is a photograph there. That's much different than a lithograph. A lithograph is a printed piece of paper where a photograph has on the back a Kodak paper or Kodak paper that was come out of a lab, and those are more valuable to have than a lithograph that's just a printed version of this. So that right there adds $100 to it. I'd love to have that under my Christmas tree. What you got there? Richard Gordon signed training on Apollo 15. Charlie Duke typed handwritten letters about something, and Jerry Griffin signed Apollo 15 glossy photograph of him talking. He was one of the launch control men in Houston talking to the astronauts and making the calls. He was in the hot seat when the lightning hit Apollo 12 years ago. There's my daughter, Jessica. And Jessica, how you doing? How's McKinley? Hope Macy had a beautiful #1 birthday. I'll get a hold of you after Stay Curious today. But love my daughter and love my grandkids. McKinley, her nickname's Bop because she is bebopping around right now, I'm sure. So keep track of her, Jessie. All right. Guess what? You can have a private conversation with either Fred Hayes or Charlie Duke. All right, just lay down the dollars for it. These have gone for $1,000 to $1,500. Charlie Mars, our Godfather, knows each of them very well, but so does Chuck Jeffrey. And Chuck has orchestrated this. Fredo, who had his 91st birthday yesterday, has orchestrated a lot of these. We've talked to him on Zoom. One of the first astronaut we interviewed, Marty, on Zoom around July 4th last year. Or, no, July 4th of 2021. 30 minutes with the 10th man on the moon, Charlie Duke. We've spent more time with him than that, haven't we, Marty? Having an adult beverage or two. Great guy. And you know what, Marty? They'll talk longer than 30 minutes, don't you think?
Oh, for sure. They have so much to talk about. Just keep asking questions.
Yep. So you bid and win this bid, you'll be sent the link and time when Fredo wants to talk to you or when Charlie wants to talk to you. And I'll guarantee you it'll be a conversation in your life that you'll never forget. Of course, with Zoom, you can look at them. It's not like talking to them on the phone. We also have, Chuck does in this auction, a lot of rich photographs from lunar orbiters. That's in the upper left. Here is the Start Your Mercury Astronaut Collection. You could literally get completed at this auction if you've got a big enough checkbook, okay? Al Shepard's hard to find now, and I don't see many of Al's in there. But Scott Carpenter, John Glenn, Wally, Gordon Cooper, all right. Deke Slayton's a little hard to find. Of course, the hardest one to get is going to be Gus Grissom. You find a Gus Grissom, it's going to be $1,000 all day long, just like a Neil Armstrong is going to be $1,000 to $1,500 all day long. And there's a vintage NASA photograph with 4 flight directors signed it there, and that should go for a couple $100. What I love are the models. You don't have to build them. I couldn't build a model as beautifully as Steve Jokums does. And his Lake County Spaceport folks, go to his eBay or and he can gives you those decals that you may need to finish your shuttle, including the decals of the heat shield on the bottom. But look at these models. Some are going to go for quite a lot of money. That Army Nike anti-missile model, that's not very common. I love this Nike one right here too. Okay. Nike was a Greek god of that sat on or not Artemis, but she's in the Parthenon. Helene, I think it is, was her scout. Nike was a kind of a flying fairy, if you will. Skybolt, look at these models. Ready? They're going to be packed beautifully when they sent to you, and $100 to $500, some of them there. And the dimensions of them are on the other descriptions there. Some are tabletop, but a couple of them are 3 feet. And getting close to the end here, just a couple more slides to show you about the auction next Saturday. Starts at noon, virtually, of course. Chuck came across Apollo 17 original lunar film put on proof sheets, okay? They took the 70 millimeter negatives. I think they reduced some of them to 35 millimeter, put them on proof sheets. This is very familiar to Tom Usiak and I, Carlton, other photographers out there. With your black and white film, you make a proof sheet and kind of pick out what ones look the best and then make a big picture of those. Here are Apollo 17 lunar orbiter proofs from these proof sheets, okay? 8 by 10s. I assume most of them are. But these are pictures that were on the moon, numbered, surface. When you see the numbers on a photograph, they are code for the mission and also where it was on the photographic film, but they're also internal VIP photographs. So you see red or black number, particularly the red numbered, were the first off the press to go around to VIPs and the news media. And then they would crank off a whole bunch of others. And then you got to watch it because you'll see Apollo pictures that are offered with the NASA worm logo. And we didn't have the NASA worm logo until after the Apollo program, 1975, I believe. But during the 20th anniversaries and so forth like that, they'd crank out a whole other batch of them. But if you see that worm logo on there, they're not from the year that the mission was, from 69 to 72. Those are the type of things I've been taught by Chuck Jeffrey and Ken Havicott, and I'm so grateful for it. And one last slide here for our TGIF Friday, Apollo 14 press kit binder, press kits from Apollo 16. All right, mission reports. Those are very popular. There's a Skylab final plans for the 1973 launch, and Apollo 17 mission report. These are cool. These are little booklet pamphlets, okay, about that big, that flip open with just concise data of the mission, overview of the landing site, stuff like that. These were printed before the missions for contractors to hand out as sort of a VIP special thing. Workers would get them. I love those. Those are and you regularly sell about $50 a piece. So $200 for that lot would be very good. So and then media badges. There's a rollout for Apollo 14 there, rollout. That means going out from the VAB to the pad. You were credentialed to watch that. The rollout was November 9th, 1970. The actual landing was in February So 1971. So November, December, January, out there on the pad, almost 3 months, right, Marty? 2 to 3 months. The ahead of the launch is when the Saturn V would go out there, Marty.
It's about 3 months, Mark.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. And of course, it had its own uh, um, structure over to protect it. Mitch Rothman says the Apollo Soyuz crew wore the worm, and that's because it came around in 1975 when the worm became the logo from the meatball. And now I kind of like the worm in the meatball. That's okay with me. The worm logo in the meatball. But Marty, you're solid meatball, aren't you?
Yeah.
With a little spaghetti on it. All right, all right. Well, thank you, Marty, for a great job today. We have been doing this, like I said, together. We're grateful for John Graham, who taught Marty how to do this remotely. I have nothing to do with the production anymore, as we can allow me to focus on the content like I did today, hopefully to your satisfaction. There's the QR code to hit to go to our website and check it out there. All right. And let me just say goodbye again to Dave Stange up there, and Chris Callie when he's watching this. To everybody, have a wonderful, safe weekend. Hope your team wins. Hope you have fun, whatever you're doing to relax, whether it be bridge, football, pickleball, or maybe just reading a good book. And Marty, I cannot put that book down. The wrong stuff about the Russian space program gone awry. That's something else. We'll talk about that when you get here next week. So and we all look forward to that. So go out there, folks. Get you a little moonshine during the full beaver moon. After all, that's the kind of moonshine you can't get too much of. So until next week, I'm Mark Marquette saying thank you for watching. We love all of you for your support and what all you do to promote the American Space Museum. Until then, I'm Mark Marquette saying I'll see you again to bridge the space between us.
It's a wrap, Mark.
Microphone.
Yeah. Microphone muted.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to turn it off. All right. Good. Thanks, man.